I'm going to get started, and when people walk in, they walk in. Okay. That is not the beginning of my presentation. So, which way are you sliding? Okay, there we go. That looks like a start. Dark patterns, a brief exploration into the ethics of web design by me. Dark patterns are, this is really, I just want to say that this is a really tiny scratch on the surface of ethics and of web design and of what makes good design and what makes really unethical design. So let's have a look into it. What is a dark pattern? So the idea of design is to make things as accessible as possible and as satisfying for the user as possible, so that you entice people to go back to your website again and again, and they can enjoy themselves there, but also navigate to everywhere, reach everything that they want to reach. Now, regardless of how accessible or enticing a website is, it can be difficult to get people to do certain things you want them to. So your service might be absolutely perfect, right? They might be loving it, but they might not want your newsletter, okay? So there are a lot of things that are done through design that are a little bit sneaky, and they're meant to get people to sign up to a newsletter, share articles on social media, for example, or pay for a certain service. At the end of the day, it's getting more popularity, which would ultimately bring more sales. Now, some companies think that the answer is unethical design to get more people to do the things they want them to, and using these dark patterns to hit those KPIs. Who knows what KPIs stand for? Yes, I know you would know. A KPI is a key performance indicator, and those were really drummed up at my old job, and that was one of the main reasons why I ended up quitting it. Yeah, so it's like, we need to hit like this many things, and if we don't by this date, the world will end. Well, surprisingly, it actually won't. Right, so what is actually a dark pattern? Now I'm going to go into a few websites and show you. There is an absolutely extensive list on a website called Dark Patterns. Guess where I got this idea from? And there's things like trick questions, sneaking into the basket, the Roach model, privacy Zuckerberg, right there. Hidden costs, forced continuity. Now this is the first one that I want to pay a little bit of more attention to. Can we see this relatively okay? No, let me... Yeah, just about. Okay, so it's the Trainline website. We've all used that one, I presume, yeah? They are part of a bigger umbrella corporation. And they are actually, when you purchase your ticket, everything's absolutely fine, everything's normal. And then you are directed, you're used to a color scheme. You're used to there being a blue button saying continue, okay? And as soon as you've purchased your tickets, they're in your inbox, you know, you can go scan yourself in at the train station. But you are presented with this screen, and it's like collect from anywhere, cool, cool, cool. You click continue. And then you are directed into this website. So it's kind of telling you, when you click the continue button, you're taking to another site. Okay, because you're used to pressing continue. Your booking is actually complete. You've got your tickets, but you press continue anyway because that's what you do. And then it's asking you to provide lots of details. It's asking you to provide your credit card details as well, so that each month it takes £15 off you for a presumable £20 off. Okay, and that's through Admiral. That's what's called bait and switch. Cool. Another dark pattern, I found this really nice section on Tumblr. Yeah, we kind of see them. Okay. This pattern is called confirm shaming. So you can confirm everything is fine, or you can say no, and then you're being shamed for saying no. Why? I don't wanna. Right. Save 20%. Sign up and save. Nah, I feel like paying full price. Okay? So it's just all of these like snarky little things that's saying, yes, please, no, I'll miss out. Cool. 1 to 10% credit towards your offer. And then in this tiny, tiny little font, no thanks, I'd rather pay full price again. So that one is quite similar one. Oh, okay, this one I quite like. No thanks, I don't like delicious food. Really? Just because I'm not signing up to your newsletter? Okay. No thanks, I'd rather pay full price for delicious tea, and so on and so forth. You get the gist of this one. There were some really quite shocking examples of these ones where no, I'm rich and I'd rather not have a discount, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there is also more examples at Dark Patterns website's Twitter, and there's a whole bunch of those. And this one is actually from Netflix. So this guy is saying, I received this email to help me complete my registration. I've not actually registered. It's just a promotional email. But you click continue, and that's it. You signed up for Netflix. Cheers. Okay. Do you have any examples? A little bit of an interactive one. Ooh, nobody told you you have to be speaking when you're here to listen to a talk. The fear. Can you think of something? Any situation that you've been?
I don't think I can think of any example. Like I wouldn't have realised what was being done to me at the time, but then thinking, why am I being disgraced?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had that with the H&M website as well, just buying some stuff, and they're like, ooh, but you could get 10% on your next 5th order if you sign up for this newsletter, but not on this one, right? So I don't want it. No, but you should. Like, stop it. It's okay.
I did a Groupon the other day.
Yeah.
Got some on a Groupon and then ended up on that train line thing afterwards where you like signed up for a £15 voucher, and I like perfectly navigated my way through the maze of getting this voucher. Got it and it expired in like 24 hours or something.
What? So not worth the effort, right, Jade?
I don't know if it counts, but this is one that drives me wild. If you go like booking.com, it's like
Yes.
75 people are looking at this right now, and you're like, oh my god, I need to get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of shopping websites do, you're like,
Yeah, absolutely. Or putting.
Really bad.
Sorry?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime is terrible for that, and where it's another actually pattern of shaming, when it says, no, I don't want my free trial or something like that. Well, yeah, but then you actually sign up automatically. One of the dark patterns is this auto sign up. So before you actually you end up clicking for something, you don't see the no thanks, I don't want it. You end up clicking confirm, and that's it. You automatically enrolled into something, and payments start being taken from your account. No warning, nothing like that. Now, I think that has been also made illegal recently. Cool. So you might actually be thinking, I hope you're not, but you might be thinking that, you know, these aren't too bad, but not as long as it should be a go. This happened. This poll occurred, yeah? Do you approve of the reunification of Austria with the German Reich that was enacted on the 13th of March 1938, and do you vote for the party of our leader Adolf Hitler? Yes? No. Okay? Now, what are we actually voting for? Okay, what are you actually asking me? My permission for something that's already happened? Which part of the question am I answering, etc., etc. So bad design has been happening for a very long while. It's not just web design, but at its worst, one example right there. Okay, so what drives unethical design, right? It could be lack of knowledge, okay? You could be just starting off and you don't know any better. Or you might have just seen something from another website and everybody does it, so we might as well, okay? But reading up, as Jade, for example, said in her talk, reading up or attending meetups when particular tech for good, you get into doing things in an accessible way. You get to do things with actually thinking of your user and how they're going to be working with your application. So another thing, which is, this one is quite innocent, oh, we didn't know. This one is quite deliberate. Optimizing sales and profit. Measuring things in the wrong way. These are the KPIs that I was talking about. So are we measuring how many people signed up for our service as opposed to how gratified, how satisfied are they with our service? And then the last one is down to each and every single one of us. And I've been guilty of this as well. Conformity. And that is suppressing the desire to question and challenge a practice which seems unethical. You might be in the workplace, and there was actually quite a shocking example that I saw. This one person was asked in their interview, are you okay in working in an unethical workplace? No, not that kind of thing. So sometimes you can see it from a mile, sometimes not so much. And if there's something that really bothers you, please do speak up. Discuss it with your colleagues, raise it higher up. Perhaps it's in error, perhaps there is a way that it can be changed while still making useful stuff. Ethics though, right, it sounds so scary. So according to Merriam-Webster, ethics is the discipline of dealing with what is good and bad and with moral duty and obligation. Good, bad, moral duty, obligations. But it's again that just having that conversation, starting that discussion, that is really the first step to it. And an ethical design for lack of knowledge or compliance or intent can be exceptionally damaging. And that recently we've had a massive uproar from people who've worked in Facebook, for example. It's led to massive court cases. There's been individuals and companies and brands being charged with quite big hefty fines because of this. Okay, so start the discussion, yeah, but also hold yourself accountable. The tech that you're creating yourselves, how is that accessible? Okay, what does it aim to achieve? Maybe not here at Northcoders, but when you do leave the nest of Northcoders, how do you apply ethical design in practice? Any questions? Yes, Richard.
What do you do if you're, I guess, I don't necessarily apply tools that much, but I guess if you're find yourself working for a client that's like they're basically specifically asking for all these features.
It's a really tricky situation, isn't it? Because what do you end up doing? Do you end up being that trouble individual who's always starting and kicking up a fuss and, you know, always starting up like, oh, this isn't right and this isn't right and so on and so forth? I'd like to think that I would be that person, and I do like to kind of challenge people on various things, even if they are ethical. But I think, as David knows, but I don't know, it is a really tricky situation, and I think the first thing that I would probably do in that situation is find out if there are any others in the room feeling the same thing. Just asking my colleagues about it. And then in quite a calm way, in quite a structured way, just approach my higher-ups and say, look, I don't feel comfortable with this. What's the reasoning behind it? Is there a way around it? What can we do to change it? Just not going in there like knocking doors down and just like, this is not ethical. That doesn't help anyone. But just being quite firm when it comes to your own principles as well. That's what I'd like to see. But anyone else? Yes, Philippa.
How far away do you think legislation is, like, in this type of thing? Is it?
It's quite tricky to gauge because there's still a lot of there's very little conversation happening on the actual ethics of the information on the internet, on what's done with your personal data, how companies are using your data. The GDPR is an attempt at it, but that's not even a global phenomenon. There are countries who have opted out of it, which baffles me really. But there are things being done, but very, very quietly. I know Google actually employ an ethicist. One, yeah. Google, one ethicist, yeah. And she's actually, I have read some of her, she's called Shannon Valler. I have read some of her publications, and she does like to start a good conversation. I've seen a talk by her, which was really, really inspiring in Manchester. But yeah, it's a tricky one because there's some legislation which is like really forward thinking, and then it's being blocked up in some countries, and then countries need to interact with each other, obviously, so there ends up being like this weird middle ground, and everything is quite a big grey area. So there's so much more that can be done. Yeah. Yes, Richard.
How do cookies fit into all this? Because I thought they can be used for good and bad.
Yeah, exactly. They can be used for a number of things. They can be so I haven't focused specifically on cookies because they're a little bit under the hood. They're just attached with your requests, but I focus more on just design itself. So they fit in again another way that you can, as you said, use them for good and for bad. And sometimes they're used to just track a hell of a lot of stuff. Facebook is actually, if you have an open Facebook tab, they can track what was in your browser history through that tab. So if you've been shopping online, I don't know, been to a website for some clothes, they can figure out which websites you've been through the history and show you advertisements, make you want to click on them and that kind of stuff. There are ways to prevent that if you wanted to look into it. Yeah. I do Faisal at the back.
Yeah, I just wanted to think, are you aware of any sort of plugin, like I know with the privacy thing with Facebook, there are some add-ons that you can. Is there any privacy to say, any add-on, say when you visit one of these websites to say, well, be careful, this is what will happen? Or this says unethical?
I've not actually looked into this, but that is a really amazing question. So if you did look into it, and I'm going to look into it on my own as well, let's just share it in one of the Slack channels and let people know.
I think
Firefox is generally a really good website for that. Jake had a question, and I'll go around to you, Alex. Jake, what was your question?
I was going to ask, is there any website or company you've been on which you're a bit surprised when they use some of these bad practices?
I think I'm always surprised by bigger names because I'm thinking, okay, if you're a smaller company, that revenue is really quite critical to you running. But if you're like a massive corporation, then you already have zillions and zillions ticking in every hour. Why are you being even greedier? So I think my biggest surprise is always with like a massive name, and I'm just like, why do you need more? That kind of thing. Alex, what was your question?
Mine's kind of a response to Faisal. There's a browser called Brave,
yeah,
and that blocks all cross-site cookies.
Okay.
Like the thing you're on about with Facebook, where they can see all of your other tabs and other history and stuff. It blocks all of those. It's called Brave.
It's a great
Okay.
website, browser, I use it all the time. But I'm just thinking the same principle can be applied to these websites. Tell people that be careful,
you're going to be asked for something like this dark pattern is happening here and that kind of thing. Not that I'm aware of, but Brave does, there's Firefox and Brave, and there's another one which are really quite good at preventing things like cookies from the bat and the privacy concerns that from the top of my head I can't think of their names. Ben, last question I think.
Where do you draw the line with this? Because I know websites like Facebook and Instagram are engineered to, let's say, emotionally manipulate you.
Absolutely.
To come back, to keep scrolling, to keep liking these things, which I would consider dark practices because they're aimed at manipulating you. But is that, I mean...
Well, what do we consider? I think this is where ethics is a really interesting discussion, and I'm happy that I've sparked so many questions, really, because sometimes manipulating a person to find relevant things for them, you could say that's helping them. But if you're manipulating someone into having an emotional dependency to keep coming back and being addicted to scrolling through and liking and being liked and so on, or loved and whatever the reactions you have, that can be taken to the extreme. And I think humans as users are being mined as a resource. Okay, just for your data. What are you going to like? I'm going to show you more of the stuff you liked. Oh, you reacted with the cry face. I'm going to sneak in a few of those just to keep you coming back, just to keep you like ticking over. I have started analyzing my Facebook feed recently, and it is, I know, and it's just, there's a lot of cats on there, but there's, even in between the cats, there's a really big mixture. Here's 3 happy stories, here's a really sad story, and here's a couple of other ones that are really quite happy to keep you there and to, you know, end up on a positive kind of thing. And the more you scroll, it's like just emotional roller coaster of what Facebook has tailored for me today. When I open Twitter on the morning on my bus journey, I'm always like, what should I be angry with today? Sometimes it's some kind of school in America, sometimes it's a politician, you know, it just What am I going to get angry at today? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have a particularly burning question, or can we? Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much.